So this webinar is about our H76 compressor, which is an emulation of the classic 1176. And it's a hardware emulation. It's not a circuit emulation like we did with the FAT model. So it's more precise and more faithful to the original. So just wait a couple of minutes more, and then we will start. In the meanwhile, I'll share my screen, so you let me know if you can hear sound coming from my DAW. Just let me know if you can hear anything. Yeah, really bad. That's really bad. Just let me mute all the tracks except for the drum I'm going to use. So it should be lighter now. I'll turn off the processor on the master too. Much better indeed. So if everybody can hear, that's fine. We have been lucky today. It went fine the first time. Okay, so it's time to start. So we are talking about our latest plugin, which is H76, and this is the UI. And it's a one-to-one emulation of the 1176 compressor from the 760s. I can't remember the original circuit, if it's from 60s or 50s. But anyway, this is it, and there's some peculiar characteristic. For those who don't know the compressor, I will first explain how the compressor, the real hardware compressor, works. It's a feedback unit, so the control signal for the gain reduction is taken from the output. So it's already compressed. I mean, the signal enters the compressor. We got the gain reduction unit and the output. The feedback, the control signal for the gain reduction is taken from the output. So it's a feedback loop. And this makes the compressor more stable and able of reaching high attack speed, very fast attack speed. And it gives it the peculiar sound it has. Also, it has quite fast release speed, but in reality, both attack and release becomes program dependent, since it's a feedback compressor. The peaks get smoothed by the feedback action. So attack time, it really becomes a function of the signal itself. And it has a very sharp knee and 4 different ratio available for 8, 12, and 20. And the threshold changes on every of these ratio values. I think this was made back in the day so that the loudness was kept as stable as possible, changing the threshold, which increases while you get a higher ratio, so that the loudness of the signal was almost kept same. And we also implemented the all buttons trick, where the original hardware unit has 4 different buttons, and with a little bit of ability, was possible to press all the 4 buttons together that put the compressor in some unintended land that causes the release time to go much faster and the ratio to go something between 12 and 20. And but the nice thing is that you get a very fast release time that gives the compression a very heavy pumping effect. Um, Then, what there is to say about this compressor? It says it has transformer inputs and transformer output, and of course, it's modeled under this analog switch, together with the Class A transistors amplifier it has inside. And we model, of course, the peculiar kind of distortion that the transistor and the transformer couple gives to the sound. And of course, we have all the standard measuring feature that the original hardware unit has, so it can measure the gain reduction, input level, output level, and we also added these 2 buttons here. This first one is to bypass the compression, but keeping the analog emulation path active. So you can use this unit as a saturator if you want. And this other button over here and key is for the makeup gain. So the makeup gain bring the level up when compression happens, to keep loudness as constant as possible while tweaking the compressor. So we already have some question. So Tony asked if auto buttons listen to the incoming audio to make the adjustment. Yes, of course. They listen to the audio before the processing. So they work on the characteristic of the audio itself to find out the right attack and release, and of course for the input trim and the auto input trim, of course. And while the target GR constantly look at the peak gain reduction, and when enabled, it adjusts the input knob so that the peak gain reduction goes here. Shown even adjusting the attack and release will lower the auto gain if set incorrectly. Well, the auto gain input is set before attack and release because it goes before the analog emulation. So when set correctly, you're hitting all the analog parts of the plugin at the right level. So everything happens before. This comes before the analog emulation. This comes after the analog emulation, and these are completely digital controls. So now, this was this is for the original hardware unit. We have added all this auto stuff and also the oversample that allows us to get a high quality processing together with the dry wet, which is very handy if you want to make parallel compression. I demonstrate both. And then this is the bypass switch, which completely excludes every single processing of the units. So it's like the plugin was not on the track simply. So now, how does the auto attack and release work? For example, they work by looking at the peak to RMS ratio of the signal and setting it so that the attack time is correct for the signal. It's quite hard to explain without going into deep math, but let's say that when the signal starts to go higher than the average, we consider that as an attack phase, and we start counting the time. Then, once it's starting to go lower than that, we consider it a release time until we reach the RMS level of the signal. Of course, this is not always the same time for every sample. So what we do is to take an average of a collection of this attack and release time, filter out the outliers using the standard deviation, and then we find out the average attack and release. And this is what we use to set the knobs, just to let you understand how it works. But I will reset everything now, and I will start from scratch, starting working manually on the kick drum. So because it's better to demonstrate how it works than to talk now. So I put the headphones and let you hear how I can tweak the compressor to get the sound I want from the kick drum. I will solo that. This kick drum has already some processing on it. We got harmonic cue and we got channel strip Mark III. Harmonic cue is to, of course, remove inharmonic frequency, because this is an acoustic kick drum that has some problem, the resonances of the room. And also I found that the resonant skin and the beta skin was out of tune one with the other. So I need to remove the problems with harmonic cue. I use channel strip for gating and for equalization. And then it's time to go to H76 for compression. Now, this is how the kick drum sound. I hope you can hear it fine. Maybe it's a little bit low in level. Let me rise up. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to enable the plugin, of course, hoping it won't collapse everything, and disable the compression and tweak the input level so I get around here. So I need to lower this. dB should be it. Okay, now I start with the gain reduction tweaking. So I want a 4:1 ratio, and I usually like to have a slow attack for the attack time when on a kick drum, which is on the right side, because the 1176 works in the opposite direction. So when the attack time is set to 7, it's the slowest possible, and when to 1 is the fastest possible. And the same goes for the release, but I want a fast release. Then I need to set my gain reduction, which is now bouncing at around -20, so it's a lot. I will lower the inputs until I get at 5-6 dB of gain reduction, which is it. Okay. And now looking at the output meter, which is running very low, I will increase my output knob to bring back the level where I want it to be. Okay, so once I stop the tweaking the compressor, the sound should be better. Okay. Okay, so see, the signal is still a little bit low, so I can recover this with this other control. So the compressor now sounds like this, should be pretty leveled in pretty equal in level. So this is bypass, and this is with the compressor on. So it's pretty more controlled and it's more stable in sound on wise. So I did this manually, but I could have used all the auto function of the plugin. I'll do that once again, letting the plugin set by itself. So I will first enable the auto trim. So it will adjust to this target, which is quite hot, 3VU. And I'll let you listen to the sound, let the plugin listen to the sound so it can tweak it just by itself. But let me turn off a couple of tracks more so we can hear better sounding stuff. Okay, so with the auto trim, it set itself to negative 6 dB, which was about what I set manually. Now with Link.io, I can give back some of the gain I lost automatically, and then I will set the auto track and auto release so that the plugin can set by itself. And it found that the correct attack time and release time was 3 and 6, which is pretty common for 1176. And now I want negative 6 dB of gain reduction, so I will tweak this one to get to that level. You see the input knob is adjusting by itself until the needle is at negative 6. So here we are, and when I press MK button, I get the output to go higher so that I can get back the level I want. And we are pretty same level. Well, Tony asked, what does MK stand for? It stands for makeup gain, very easily, very simple. When it's turned on, there is an algorithm that tries to find out the level that has been lost due to the gain reduction, and it adjusts the output gain, the output knob, so that this level is regained. Keep in mind that everything that is inside this black area here is analog emulated. So if you increase the output, you also increase the saturation, and have a listen at how it sounds differently if I turn off the analog emulation. Can you hear that when I turn off the analog emulation, the transients are smeared, and there is a little bit less impact, but more body and more level overall. This is what analog emulation is for. Thanks to the analog emulation, you can get more body out of the sound, and more loudness in a track. This is basically what analog emulation is good for. Yes, Sean, you could also use a transient shaper to get more of the body, but it's not something I really like. I prefer to work with standard compressor, maybe because I am used to that, but you can, of course, use more modern tool, different stuff. I won't tweak the snare and all the other drums because it's not interesting. What it's interesting is what you can do at the drum room mic. I don't know if you ever heard how the 1176 can sound on a room mic. So I will enable the plugin and turn off and bypass, sorry, the processing. This is how the drums room mic sounds. So it's pretty boring by itself. But if I enable the compression with the old button turned on and really slam target gain reduction, you can hear how it becomes more interesting. Can you hear it? Can you hear how it's starting to sound really more interesting? And because of the pumping, because of the pumping of the compressor in all button mode, you get a lot of the room sound. And when it's paired with the other drums, for example, if I just enable kick and snare and room together, you get this sound. Sure, where is my snare? Completely lost somewhere. Where is my snare? Because I have mutated the tracks of the snare. And if I also enable the overheads, I get definitely a more interesting sound for the room. If I bypass the room compressor, it's more plain. Sorry, my laptop can cope with that. And there is another interesting thing you can do on the bus itself. When you do the parallel compression, the problem is zoom. That is a heavy stuff on while recording screen. Everything goes nuts. So hopefully I'll get a new Mac soon. So this problem will went away. So if I enable the drum bus compressor, it is like this. No, this is impossible. Let me see what I can do to improve that. I already I'm already at the terrible block size. If I make it a little bit shorter. Can you hear how the rooms comes even more out, if you can? You can hear how it sounds more dry now. Can you hear the difference? If I enable the parallel compression, the cymbals comes out. So to change the ratio between dry and wet, we have this control here. This is completely wet, so slamming all the bass, all the drum or the drum bass, and this is dry. I like to keep it at around 50%. This is one of the nicest things you can do with the 1176, together with the drum, with the room. And another application where it shines is vocals. And so let me turn off all these tracks so I can move on to the vocals. I will take some rap vocals over here. Let me see exactly where it happens. So I can show you correct location. Here we are. So wait, I still have some solid stuff. Okay. So I need to unsolo my vocal bass.
In questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante.
Okay, so this is the raw vocals. Well, it's not actually raw because we have harmonic cue and the equalizer from channel strip Mark III. And we will add our compression. I will, of course, start again from scratch. So you can hear how it automatically adjusts everything. So I will start with the auto trim, of course.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante.
And when, sorry, this was not enabled.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante.
And when it's
Sempre
stopped,
più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante.
I get the correct level. So now I can set the auto track and release.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante. Per me.
Okay, I got tack and release. Then I will set auto gain reduction to our 10 dB of gain reduction targets.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante, in questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante.
Here we are, make up gain.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante, in questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante. Arriva l'idea che tutto incastona e tutto torna in quest'orgia di suoni da fatti buoni. Alza gli ampli così nessun dorma.
And this is perfect for vocal processing. And I can also go a little bit with more compression using H1 ratio.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraversa un
If
altoparlante.
I
Per
want
me è solo il
a
mio
more aggressive
carburante. In
vocals.
questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante.
And if you want some more transient in the vocal and make it a little bit more aggressive, we can use attack and release artistically. So instead of letting it set the attack and release correctly, we can use it manually in this way. So we have, sorry, opposite. We have a slow attack and a fast release. So we increase the distortion of from the compression.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraversa un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante. In questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante.
Or slam it.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraversa un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante. In questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante.
So it makes the vocal more aggressive, more in place. It's one of the best application for 1176. So it's good compression for vocal. But I haven't let you hear the analog emulation. If I turn off the compression and only tweak these knobs, you can hear the distortion it creates. Let me lower this one.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraversa un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante. In questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante. Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraversa un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante. In questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante.
And I'm using it right now as a saturator, which also has a nice tone to it. You can, of course, use this feature to get the sound you want also with the compression on. So if I want a more aggressive vocal, I can go to the compressor with the input trim hotter, so I can drive into saturation before
Sempre
compressing.
più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraversa un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante. In questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante. Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraversa un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante. In questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante. Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraversa un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante. In questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante. Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraversa un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante. In questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante.
So I'm using it in a very unconventional way, and heavy compression with a little bit of distortion. So I get more grit out of the
Sempre più
vocal.
distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraversa un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante. In questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante. Arriva l'idea che tutto incastona e tutto torna in quest'orgia di suoni da fatti buoni. Alza gli ampli così nessun dorma.
Well, of course, I'm over compressing it, but it was just to let you hear how it can use it to get even more aggressivity, let's say, from the vocals. And usually, when you use it more in a more conventional way, you use it together with a a slower compressor to tame the peaks with this kind of compression, and to get the body with a slower compression, usually an LA2A. I will add our HA2A compressor, so you can hear it together. First, I will set the H76, so I will just remove the peaks from the vocals. I will do that manually. I have fast attack and a fast release.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante, in questi testi c'è sempre poco di
No more than 5
confortante.
dBs. Gain reduction.
Distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante, in questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante.
Okay, so now I can go to the other compressor.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante, in questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante. Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante, in questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante.
Okay,
Sempre più
now
distante,
I need
quell'attimo un
to
diamante, la
increase
voce
the
che
output
passa
gain.
attraverso un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante, in questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante. Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un
Here we are.
altoparlante. Per me è
So
solo il mio
if I
carburante, in questi testi c'è
disable
sempre poco di
both
confortante.
plugins,
Arriva l'idea che tutto incastona e tutto torna in quest'orgia di suoni da fatti buoni. Alza gli ampli così nessun dorma. Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante, in questi testi c'è sempre poco di confortante.
it's much more compact as a sound. I don't know if you can hear that. They work fine together. This is removing the peaks.
Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un
You see
diamante,
the
la voce
needle
che passa
moves
attraverso un
very fast,
altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio
and only
carburante,
when
in
the
questi testi c'è
pulses and
sempre
when
poco
the
di
transients
confortante.
happens, well, this one
Arriva l'idea che tutto incastona e
keeps
tutto
more
torna in
stable
quest'orgia di suoni da
the
fatti
body of the
buoni.
vocals
Alza gli
itself.
ampli così nessun dorma. Sempre più distante, quell'attimo un diamante, la voce che passa attraverso un altoparlante. Per me è solo il mio carburante, in questi testi c'è sempre poco di
If I disable one or
confortante.
the other, they don't work well
Arriva l'idea
as
che
they work
tutto
together.
incastona e tutto torna in quest'orgia di suoni da fatti buoni. Alza gli ampli così nessun dorma.
So this is another trick that, of course, many of you will know, to use these plugins together, this type of compression together. But now you can do that with our plugins instead of relying to other manufacturers, because we have a 76 too. And I don't know if you have any question, just let me know. Because it's pretty simple to demonstrate a compressor like this, because everybody knows it. So if you have any question. Okay, it's based on a blackface ratio, so it's a modern one. Can't remember exactly which revision is, but one of the latest, because it's one of the modern ratio. No, it's not a vintage unit. So don't expect the high distortion and character of vintage units. It's like you were going in the shop buying an 1176 now, today. So it's the universal audio ratio. I think it's revision F, maybe. I don't know, honestly. No worries. Welcome. If anybody has any other question, while H2A, for example, is based on a clone, so it's an LH2A clone. It's a little bit different, but it has the same character. So if there is no question, we can end this short webinar, maybe. Of course, for everybody who's been with me today, you will receive a discount code tomorrow to get H76 with a, if I'm not mistaken, it should be 20% discount. Sean, no, we don't do lessons. Sorry, we don't do lessons. We are not a school, and if I don't have honestly time, it's really, really hard to keep on with the development and support and everything. So I don't have time to make lessons. Sorry. Thank you. Alstein, is your name. I'm glad you like it, and hopefully we give some good times. I found that while remixing the song, I first mix it with the FAT model from Channel Strip. While using the H76 gave me better results, gave me a more controlled and tight sound than what I got with the FAT model. So pretty happy about that. I'm gonna make soon a webinar on HoRNet because we missed that for various reasons. And I want to make a webinar on HoRNet because I want to explain a lot of how it works inside, because it's a novel algorithm and I don't know any other plugin that does the same thing. So if anybody knows that, any plugin that does what HoRNet does, let me know because I'm curious. And so I will make a webinar very soon on HoRNet. Hope you had fun finding out more about this plugin. So yes, Tony, I know scalar EQ, but it's not the same because it actually lets you increase or decrease the harmonics of the signal. It doesn't work on inharmonics. What HoRNet does is to remove frequency that should not be there in the first place, because they create phase cancellation with harmonics, with the fundamental harmonics. So let's see you in the HoRNet webinar then. What more can I say? If there are no other questions, see you next time. Have a nice rest of the day wherever you are. And thank you for showing up. Sorry again for the audio problems. I will try to find a way to improve that. But the problem is that this plugin needs at least 2 times of a sampling to correctly represent the attack time. So it's not heavy, but it's not light. As you can see, it uses 1% of my CPU. So thank you once again, and bye. Have a nice rest of the day.